What's up, guys? This is Ben and Justin of The Rundown, and it is time for another episode. Kind of had a little bit of stuff from the NFL as far as free agency goes. Have some stuff from the NBA. Tavner's tiers are returning, which I know everyone's just going to be so excited about. And then, we're getting ready to roll into March Madness, which is honestly one of my favorite sports times of the year. Before we get into all of that, Justin, how you doing today, man?
Doing good, doing good. It was a slow week for news, but we still got some stuff for you guys, so should be a fun episode, and I'm excited to get into it.
For sure, me too. Well, why don't we get right into it? Our breaking news: Justin Fields, in a move that honestly kind of shocked me, was traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a conditional sixth round. It could go as high as a fourth round pick, depending on how much playing time that Fields gets. However, he's not expected to compete with Russell Wilson for the starting position. So you got to think, barring significant injury to like Russell Wilson or something, this is gonna stay a sixth round pick. So, Justin, how shocking was this to you?
Honestly, at this point, knowing the Chicago Bears, not really. Um, I know that the Bears wanted to move off of Fields. And I even said in one of my hot takes that, if they stick with Fields and he is still in the locker room, that it would cause issues. Clearly, they have moved off of him. They are drafting Caleb Williams. All signs point to that. But man, just another absolute fleecing from the Steelers to the Bears. Because last year, they traded Chase Claypool and they got a first round pick for him.
I just want to
And
know.
then
I
this
just
year,
I just want to know what whoever traded that first round pick was smoking, because what had Chase Claypool
it's got to
done?
be good.
Yeah, what had Chase Claypool
He was
done?
kicked off the team. He was kicked off the team. They didn't even finish the season. He played like 10 games. So they got a first round pick for that. And then they just got Justin Fields for a sixth rounder. Like, if I'm the Steelers GM, I'd be sitting there texting the Chicago's GM, like, hey, you know, what else you got for me? Like,
Right.
I mean, we'll trade you. We'll trade you a seventh rounder for DJ Moore, and the Bears would probably be like, yeah, sure. Like at this point, it's just I don't know. It was a little shocking because I didn't know how this was gonna work with Russ and Fields being in the same quarterback room. But I think it's a great move for the Steelers. I mean, you got to think they went 10-7 with Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph, and both of these guys are a major step up from either of those two. So their defense took a step up. I mean it's hard to see them not getting back into the playoffs and having another winning season unless Russell Wilson and Justin Fields just like go off the deep end and are not as good as they'd previously been. So
Well, I mean, I feel like at least
I
with
mean,
at least
Russ
with
has
what
as
we've seen
many
the last.
touchdowns last year than Kenny Pickett had his entire career.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think this move definitely caught me off guard. Um, but I've also heard that this is where Justin Fields wanted to be. So I had said previously that Justin Fields I thought deserved better from Chicago, and while I do think that they should have treated him better while he was there as their starter, I also think that he's one of those quarterbacks that just wasn't maybe ready to be thrust into the fire of a starting position like that, and so maybe having a chance to learn behind a coach like Mike Tomlin and to learn behind Russell Wilson will be really good for him. Um, Obviously, going to a franchise like the Chicago Bears, um, it's hard to grow and develop as a passer, because it's hard to grow and develop as well anything under that team. So it'll be interesting to see. And yeah, I definitely think as far as Caleb Williams goes, um, I think this move, obviously, I think we were all kind of on the same page that they were going to draft Caleb, but this obviously shores that up. Um, I had another question after that, though. With the talent that will be around Caleb Williams, is he how much pressure is he under to make the playoffs his first year? Just with all the hype that's been around him and the talent that they're going to have around him.
Um, I mean, I would say maybe not his first year, but I think if he has not made the playoffs by the end of his second year, um, that would be worrisome to me if I were a Bears fan or in their front office, because you look at the Bengals with Joe Burrow, they were really dysfunctional, hadn't won a playoff game in 30
They
years.
were 2 and
He comes in,
14.
exactly, 2-14. The year he comes in, he gets hurt. And then his first full year of being healthy, he leads them to the Super Bowl. Trevor Lawrence, first year under Urban Meyer, dysfunctional franchise, not very good. By his second year, led him to the playoffs, won a playoff game.
I
Justin
just
Herbert,
I just you
super dysfunctional franchise, and continues to play at a high level and made the playoffs. So you have this pattern of young quarterbacks coming in. Tua had success getting Pro Bowl votes, had MVP chatter earlier in the season. You have this pattern of these young quarterbacks getting drafted and having success very early in their careers.
mhm.
So where if Caleb Williams is not producing that same amount of um, that just the production in general, if he's not having that same amount of success, I think it should be seen as a little bit of a failure.
Yeah, I get it. Sorry, I was laughing because you mentioned Urban Meyer, and the first thought that popped into my head was how their head coach was kicking their kicker.
Yeah, and groping women in a bar.
Yeah, that too. I was trying to keep it on a lighter note, but yeah, no, I would tend to agree. I think it's like I the hype around him I think is going to do him more harm than good, unfortunately. Because there is going to be a little bit of I mean, he's been compared to already better than Patrick Mahomes was. And like, they're saying that like he's like a once in a lifetime processor of information and stuff like that. So it's like, there is going to be that pressure, but I agree with you just in general with rookies, like you can't put that pressure on them to do all that their first year. Like that's just unrealistic. So remains to be seen. I'm with you though. I think by the end of year 2, if you don't make the playoffs and there's not like a significant injury or something that's like an obvious cause of that, then you start to kind of question like how good was he really? So
Yeah.
let's move on. As ex-Chargers wide receiver Keenan Allen has been traded to the Chicago Bears. Um, so the Chargers hold the number 5 pick in this year's draft, and all signs would point to them drafting a wide receiver. They have had success drafting 5th overall in the past. Um, Most notably, they had Junior. I don't know how you say his last name. Is that Saw?
Sayao.
Sayao in 1990 and LaDainian Tomlinson in 2001. Um, for me, I think this move specifically, and then the signing of DeAndre Swift and then DJ Moore. I mean, this is kind of what I was talking about. Like, I feel like this move honestly does kind of add a little bit of pressure on the Bears to at least. I mean, I'm not saying they have to make the playoffs, but they at least need to be in the conversation. It can't be like last year where we're like, oh, they're not making it. Like, there needs to be a significant step up because there is a lot more talent on the offensive side of the ball than there was even last year. And last year, I mean, they weren't even that bad offensively. So, yeah, I know there were talks about potentially some of the players taking pay cuts to stay in the Chargers, but it also just feels like Harbaugh is kind of let's get the old regime out and I'm going to build my own program here. So, Justin, what were your thoughts on this trade?
Yeah, I mean, Keenan Allen came out and stated that he was not going to take a pay cut, even though Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack both said that they would. So it was a little shocking for Keenan Allen to say that. Um, but also I understand it. He doesn't want to risk his money, and I mean he goes to a situation where you have DJ Moore on the other side of the ball. You have Cole Kmet, which is a serviceable tight end. You have DeAndre Swift in the backfield and Roshan Johnson, and you'll have Caleb Williams. So I think this does add pressure. This team just kind of reminds me of the 2021 Bengals, where you have It's a little bit different because Caleb Williams wide receivers are going to be a lot more experienced than T Higgins and Jamar Chase were. Um, but they have a solid veteran running back. They have a not great offensive line, but a pretty good defense. And it just feels very similar to that. Um, so yeah, I think there is this added pressure because you have all of this talent around you to
Hmm.
be able to produce
And
results.
you mentioned
And
the
I think if he doesn't,
I was just gonna say you mentioned the O line, and I mean that's something. This is a good O line draft, you know. So this is one of those things where they could
with that
address.
ninth pick,
Yeah, they could address that, and I mean this could sneaky be like a dark horse, you know, second second round, even conference championship team, depending on Caleb Williams, obviously.
yeah,
Um,
I think the conference championship also kind of depends on where Detroit is,
sure,
where Green Bay is, where San Francisco
sure,
is,
yeah,
where
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Philadelphia is,
I definitely just meant like talent
and just
wise.
kind of how they. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I cut you off there, so feel free to finish your thought.
yeah. I was just gonna say it was a disappointment. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
if
okay.
they
So
if they don't have success.
gotcha. So we were in the same boat. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's just move on. Ex Cowboy All Pro offensive tackle Tyron Smith is signing a 1 year deal with the New York Jets. This to me was just the Jets trying to be like, hey, Aaron, we're going to make sure you don't tear your Achilles this year. um,
We would like to have you for more than 4 plays.
yeah, so their offensive line was, you know, those fun revolving doors that are in like hospitals and stuff.
Yeah,
That's exactly what their offensive line was last year. And
yeah,
while Aaron Rodgers did get hurt on a play that was potentially his own fault because he didn't get rid of the ball fast enough, I mean, it's not like their O line was doing Zach Wilson any favors. So I think this is a good signing for the Jets. Tyron Smith, I feel like that's going to be a good spot for him. And yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think this is addresses a very obvious weakness
Mm,
for them, but I would still be shocked if they didn't take another offensive lineman in the draft, simply because they just need so much help there. I mean, it was graded as one of the worst offensive lines by PFF this year, and I mean, Tyron Smith is a great he's a fantastic player, but you know, one guy is not going to make a difference when you need four others that are serviceable to block for you.
yeah,
So I would be shocked if they didn't take another tackle in this draft, specifically because of how loaded this draft is. I mean, there's been talks from analysts saying that this draft class for offensive tackles is like once in a generation type of draft. Like it's that stacked.
for sure.
So I would be shocked if they didn't try to pick up another guy.
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, why not, right? Like you said, it's stacked. And worst case scenario, you grab a guy and he doesn't work out. But the Jets are kind of in the same boat of the Titans where you need bodies. you got to at least you got to
Yeah.
at least get some guys to try out. As a side note, sayonara to Andre Dillard. Um, Titans released him and good riddance.
I text you that and you were like, "Thank God." And I was like, "He was trash, wasn't he?" You were like, "Oh yeah."
You remember that video of Tim Tebow getting shoved on his butt in practice when he was trying to block as a tight end?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Andre Dillard like every play. So he was the starting left tackle whenever Ryan Tannehill got hurt earlier in the season, and he was also the starting left tackle whenever Will Levis got hurt later in the season. So, anyway, moving
Love
on.
that.
Yeah. Expatriate offensive tackle Trent Brown has signed a 1 year deal with your very own Cincinnati Bengals. Um, I like this signing for you all. I mean, to a lesser extent, you all kind of had some O line problems last year. Those really didn't surface until about halfway through the season, though. Like earlier in the year, I honestly thought your O line played pretty decent, and then they just kind of fell apart. Unfortunately, Burrow got hurt kind of as a result of it, and so I think this is just another move by the Bengals to shore up a need that they have. So I like the signing.
Yeah, I like the signing too. I think it adds, some experience on the offensive line. It sucks that we had to let Jonah Williams go, but you kind of had the expectation that the guy replacing him probably wasn't going to be as good. I don't think Trent Brown is as good as Jonah Williams was. Um, but in the same vein as the Jets, I would really like to see the Bengals, if they stay at 18, draft a tackle, and at least make Trent Brown kind of sweat for that starting position. And I would draft that offensive tackle with the mindset of he's going to be your day one starter, and let's see how training camp goes. If Trent Brown's the guy, he's the guy, and we'll let this guy kind of, whoever we draft, we'll kind of let him take a back seat and learn. But whoever I draft at 18 for an offensive tackle would be, my expectation would be, he's a day one starter, and we'll let them kind of duke it out for left tackle.
Let me challenge that real quick though. What if Brock
Yeah.
Bowers is still there at 18?
If Brock Bowers is there at 18,
I know you signed
don't know.
Gesicki. I know you signed Gesicki, but I
See, like, we signed Gesicki for a year. He's a good pass catching back. If we get the production from Gesicki of the 4-year span in Miami where he was averaging 50 catches, 600 yards, and 7 touchdowns, if we get that Mike Gesicki this year, I know it's going to be, hindsight. We're not going to be able to tell. But if we get that production from the tight end position this year, I don't think we need Bowers,
of course now
because we have Tanner Hudson, who's a solid receiving tight end,
mhm.
and then we also have Drew Sample, who's a great blocking tight end. So, like, we have the different needs that we need from our tight end. I don't know. I just don't know if I would be. I don't know. A, I'd be shocked if Bowers fell that far.
I would too. No, I would
and
too.
B, I would really prefer them rather take a tackle.
Now that you've said that, of course, Brock Bowers is going to become Gronkowski and Kelsey and
Tony Gonzalez.
Tony Gonzalez and all them put together.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's move on. As Pittsburgh's own Kenny Pickett has been traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. They also had to give up a 4th-round pick, and they received a 3rd-round pick and 2 7th-round picks in 2025. Justin, I don't know how I feel about this move. I genuinely don't know. Like, Kenny Pickett, I don't think he plays similarly to Jalen Hurts at all. So I just don't know, like, what the thought. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, their offense is so built around Jalen Hurts' like talents that I don't feel like Kenny Pickett is the right fit there. Like, that's why they signed Mariota when they did, was because, I mean, Mariota's not Jalen Hurts, obviously, but it's a similar kind of style. Whereas Kenny Pickett, I don't honestly know if he has a style. But it just doesn't feel like this fits very well with Philly. Pittsburgh, I mean, I like the trade for them. I mean, you get a 3rd-round pick, and then you get 2 more picks next year. So I think that's a good fit as far as that goes. But yeah, what'd you make of the Kenny Pickett to the Eagles? Because that was interesting to me.
Yeah, it was very clear that Kenny Pickett didn't want to be in Pittsburgh anymore. I mean, let's be honest, he was healthy for that playoff game against Buffalo, and they still chose to go with Mason Rudolph.
Mason Rudolph was on a heater, I will say, but yeah.
I mean, yes, but
well,
if Kenny Pickett's supposed to be your starting quarterback and your QB1, regardless of whether that guy's on a heater or not, if he's healthy, he should be your guy. Like, if Joe Burrow goes down for a couple games and Jake Browning throws for 400 yards in those 3 games that he's out, Joe Burrow's still your guy.
Yeah.
Like, if Patrick Mahomes goes down, Patrick Mahomes is still your guy. Like, so that's why it's like, it seemed like a very Kenny Pickett didn't want to be there anymore, and Pittsburgh didn't want Kenny Pickett there anymore. So the fact that they were able to send him out and still get some stuff back for him rather than just waiting until next year and letting him go, I think is a really good thing for Pittsburgh. And for Philly, I mean, they needed a backup quarterback, getting rid of Mariota or letting him walk. And I just think in a league where we saw 66 starting quarterbacks this past year, I don't think you can ever have a lack of backup quarterbacks. I mean, the Browns have Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Jameis Winston, Deshaun Watson, and they just signed Tyler Huntley from the Ravens. I mean, they have four potential quarterbacks just in case. So it just feels like Kenny Pickett's probably the best option that they had out there.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they wanted to get like a Ryan Tannehill, but I'm assuming they probably wanted to go for someone a little bit younger.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm honestly a little shocked Ryan
And to
Tannehill
be
hasn't
fair,
been
Kenny
signed yet.
Pickett's a little more mobile than Ryan Tannehill is now in his career.
That's true. Although, also to be fair, Ryan Tannehill has probably put as many yards on his legs as Derrick Henry in the last few years because our offensive line has been, well, for a lack of a better term, ass. So
He's been running for his life.
yeah, I just saw something that they're classifying as breaking news that the New York Jets are the strong favorites to draft Georgia superstar tight end Brock Bowers, and I'm just like, okay.
Right.
Speaking of the New York Jets, ex-Charger wide receiver Mike Williams is signing a 1-year deal with the New York Jets. I like these questions that you put in here. What does this mean for the Jets? Are they contenders, or are there still too many unknowns? Calling the New York Jets contenders just feels illegal, doesn't it?
It feels dirty.
It does. Yeah, I don't think this makes them contenders. I do think it's good for them to get a good wide receiver 2 to pair with Garrett Wilson. But there's just so many. I definitely think with that last question is true, that there are just too many unknowns. I mean, Aaron Rodgers obviously rehabbed very quickly last year. He seems like he might be in decent enough shape to go, but also he's 900 years old coming off of an Achilles tear, so who knows what he is actually going to be. Because as we've seen many a time, just because a player looks good in videos and film and workouts, like game speed is a whole different animal. It's like, obviously this is exactly the same thing, but it's like I went and played pickup basketball with a coworker of mine the other day, and like had been shooting around for a bit and was like, "Oh yeah, I'll be ready to play in a game." And dude, I was fighting for my life after like game 2 because it was just so much running around. You're just not ready for it. So, for the Jets, I think this is definitely a good signing. I think this is a sign of improvement coming, hopefully. But the Jets are another one of those teams where there are a lot of questions to answer. And while this is one of them answered, it's like, how much does this move the needle? I think it's still too early to tell.
Yeah, I kind of echo that, where I think their success is going to come down to Aaron Rodgers. I mean, let's be honest, he's 40 and coming off an Achilles tear. I understand that he rehabbed and he did all of these,
4,900, same thing.
Yeah, and he did all of these like special rehab, whatever, and he was back throwing the ball 2 months after all of that stuff. I get it, but to me, it's just like it comes down to how he's able to bounce back. Like you said, him going out and throwing toss is way different than a 350-pound defensive tackle barreling down at you, and you have to make a jab step in a split second. So it just comes down to how much he trusts that Achilles, and if he's able to return to the Green Bay form of throwing for 4,000, 4,500 yards, whatever it is, and if that's the case, I think the Jets can be serviceable. I don't know if they're going to be amazing. They still have to go through Buffalo, who's going to be still good. Miami's still going to be good. But they do have Aaron Rodgers, Breece Hall, Mike Williams, and Garrett Wilson. And then they just got Tyron Smith. It is a serviceable enough offense to compete with a lot of teams in this league. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. My guess is their ceiling, best case scenario for them, I would say, is probably 10 wins.
Yeah.
That to me is their ceiling.
Like they'd be like a
I would be
fringe.
hard pressed to see them win 11-12.
They'd be like a fringe wild card team, I think. Like that's kind of their ceiling. I think definitely they take a little bit of heat because they're in the AFC. The AFC is just one of those conferences right now where you just there's no good way to like you can't win 10 games and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm making the playoffs." So, yeah. Let's go for our last breaking news headline here. The Broncos trade wide receiver Jerry Jeudy to the Browns, who then extended him with money that I guess just appeared out of thin air because I'm not sure where this even came from, but they extended him for 3 years, $58 million. Um, First and foremost, Jerry Jeudy to the Browns. I mean, I think this is a good trade for the Browns. Um, you get a weapon to pair with Amari Cooper and David Njoku, and take a little bit of pressure off of Nick Chubb, who I mean, hopefully is going to bounce back to form. But let's be honest, he's coming off of a rather rough injury, and so I don't think they're going to be able to lean on him quite as much as they have.
Yeah, I mean his knee did look like a right angle,
It did.
but the opposite way.
It did. Yeah, the way it's not supposed to bend, that's the way it bent. Um,
Yeah.
as far as, I think for the Browns, if nothing else, this trade, I think, will answer any questions about Deshaun Watson. Because if Deshaun Watson can't at least lead this team to the playoffs and at least win a couple games in the playoffs, like I really think this is the year where there's a lot of pressure on Deshaun Watson because we watched Joe Flacco take this team to the playoffs. And I love Joe Flacco, but that man is like 62 years old over here. He stopped mowing his yard to come play for Kevin Stefanski. If you're Deshaun Watson, you have to make the playoffs this year. You have to stay healthy because otherwise, I mean, we were talking a few weeks ago, or we were talking about a month ago about Joe Burrow being injury prone. Like, big dog, like Deshaun Watson hasn't been healthy in like 5 years.
I mean, because he sat out a year.
Sat out a year.
And then he was suspended for what, 11 games
11
last
games.
year?
Yeah.
And then he only started like 8 or 9 this past year. So I mean, in the last 3 years of NFL
the man
football,
has played
he
like
has
10 games.
Yeah, I think it's like 14 in 3 years. And I know some of that's from just like him sitting out, suspension. Like it's not all injury, but like,
that's
dude,
still,
if you're getting paid $256 million, you've got to be available.
yeah. The Browns made the mistake of paying him for what he had been and not what he was. Because the reality of the situation is they were paying a quarterback that hadn't played in a year and they knew was going to get suspended for, at minimum 8 games. So I think this could very easily become like one of the worst contracts ever.
Oh yeah.
Like I think it's becoming.
I don't know, that Russell Wilson one is up there.
That will probably go down in history as the worst trade ever.
Yeah.
Although I think that the Deshaun Watson one was a trade too, right? I don't know. It was.
Not 100% sure.
It was because the Texans got a bunch of picks from him. I remember.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, no, I think Deshaun Watson's contract, though, I think will go down as the worst contract ever because it was all that money guaranteed.
If he's not able to perform.
If he's not able to perform. Kind of going back to Jerry Jeudy, though, I think pairing him with, Amari Cooper and David Njoku will really give him a chance to shine because he won't be the sole focus of the defense. Too much of his time on the Broncos was spent with Tim Patrick's leg blowing out on him every training camp, and then who was the other guy with him?
Cortland Sutton?
Yeah, Cortland Sutton. I don't know why I just forgot. Cortland Sutton was out some and was just not very good other points of time. So I think this will truly give Jerry Jeudy a chance to shine. But yeah, what were your thoughts? That was kind of long-winded.
I mean, I kind of got mine out. Like you said, this just feels like a kind of a prove it year for Deshaun Watson. I mean, Flacco was able to come in and have success with the same team. Dorian Thompson-Robinson did. I think PJ Walker started a game for them. Like they all had success.
Mm-hmm.
So if Deshaun Watson's not able to get this done with this team, it'll definitely feel like a major disappointment for the Browns. And as a Bengals fan, I'm here for it. So
as a Titans fan who doesn't have a stake in the AFC North, I'm here for it. Yeah, so that's kind of
And
all.
I just want to remind our listeners and our viewers, the Tennessee Titans, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Houston Oilers have all won the AFC North more recently than the Cleveland Browns.
Yes, sir. Oilers
So,
Nation, let's frack. Gets oil fracking.
boo.
All right. Well, Justin, why don't you kick off our NBA games for the
Yeah, so
last
we had
game?
some notable NBA games. The San Antonio Spurs played the Brooklyn Nets, where Victor Wembanyama went for 33, 15, and 7 with 7 blocks. It was just an impressive performance. I mean, let's be honest, he is just a freak of nature.
Did you
And my
see?
kind of question for you, what's up?
Did you see him blocking? I think it was PJ Tucker, or no, it was Marcus Morris or Markeith Morris, whichever one is, whichever one. But he like didn't even leave the ground. He was just standing there, had his arm up, and he blocked him twice.
That doesn't shock me. But my question I kind of wanted to pose is the Rookie of the Year race over? I mean, or does Chet have some way to kind of claw back into this conversation, or is it wraps?
So as much as I want your Thunder, like as much as I'm rooting for your Thunder, and as much as I like Chet on that team, I kind of think the Rookie of the Year race is over. I mean, I guess technically Chet could claw back into the conversation if he just wants to average like 30, 20, and 20 over the next, rest of the season. But it kind of feels
Yeah,
like,
we only have like 14, 15 games left.
yeah, so it kind of just feels like Wimby has kind of locked this one down. Um, I think it would maybe be different if Chet was the centerpiece of his team, but that's obviously SGA. Whereas, Wimby is the San Antonio Spurs. Um, so I think it's over. I think he's rookie of the year. Chet is having a phenomenal season as well, but he definitely kind of fell off for a little bit, and when he fell off was right about the time that Wimby was like, "I'm gonna flex on everybody." So, um, yeah, I'll
Yeah, it, this feels like a little bit of a rhetorical question, but like,
yeah.
why is he not touching the ball all the time? I mean, he is so much taller than everybody else on the court.
Well, bro,
Like,
it's like that. It's like that meme.
if I was on the Spurs, I would average 50 assists because every time down the court, I would get to mid court and I'd just lob it up to the rim and let Wemby go get it.
Bro,
He
it's
would
like
average freaking 300 points because I
bro,
would
it's like
just
that.
give him the ball every
No, no, no,
time.
no, 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 no. It's like that meme I sent you where it's like Wimby is like, "Hey, yo, get me the ball. I'm 7'4", fam," and everybody else in the Spurs is like, "Hey, we're on TV."
Guys, look, it's LeBron.
Ah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
Jeremy Sohan's over there like, I want the ball. I want the ball. Guys, I got pink hair. I want the ball.
Oh gosh. Who is it that this is not related at all, but who is it that Anthony Edwards just ended?
John Collins from the Jazz.
John Collins. Oh my gosh. John Collins looked up and saw Anthony Edwards and said, "Is that the Grim Reaper?" Oh man. All right, back to Wimby. Sorry, I don't know why I thought of that,
Yeah.
but
And then the other question I wanted to ask is Wimby having the greatest rookie season that we've ever seen? He is currently averaging 21, 10, and 4, and I think like 3 blocks. Some other notable rookies, Wilt Chamberlain averaged 38, 27, and 2 in 59 and 60,
I
which
know
is
there were
just
like
bonkers.
4 teams back then, but
And everybody he was playing against was like 5'6", but you know.
that's just that's
Oscar
just
Robertson in
disgusting.
1960 averaged 31, 10, and 9. He was 3/10 of an assist away from averaging a triple double his rookie year. Walt Bellamy averaged 32, 19, and 2 the following year. In 1969 and 70, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar averaged 29, 15, and 4. In 1958, Elgin Baylor averaged 25, 15, and 4. MJ, he averaged 28, 6, and 6. LeBron averaged 21, 5, and 6. And Blake Griffin, his rookie year in 2010, he averaged 23, 12, and 4. So just some notable rookies over the last couple years. I tried to throw some more recent ones in there.
Yeah.
I think Blake Griffin's probably, besides Wemby, probably had the greatest rookie season in the last 15 years.
For sure.
So just kind of like, how does he stack up against other great rookies? Where would you kind of put him?
I don't think we can say it's the best we've ever seen. It's definitely up there. Like it's a really great one. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, you just look at some people with better numbers, like, MJ. Obviously, Wemby beats him in rebounds, but MJ had 28 and 6 assists. So, you look at Elgin Baylor, who, I mean, once again, kind of had the benefit of playing against 5 teams, but it was 25, 15, and 4. It's hard to say. I don't think any of these guys won championships in their rookie year. I think, was it Magic that did that?
I think so.
Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely think he's having one of the greatest rookie seasons we've ever seen, but I don't know that I can call it the greatest. But admittedly, I don't know enough about what these guys did outside of just these stats in their rookie years to know, like, for sure. Maybe later in the season or something we can actually rank that.
Yeah, or maybe another rundown ranks.
Yeah. All right. Well, what about you? What do you think it's the greatest rookie season ever, or what would you say?
I would say it's probably the greatest rookie season we've seen in the last 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
20 years ago exactly would be LeBron. So, and you got to think he's averaging the same amount of points, 5 more rebounds, and a couple less assists. So, but I think the difference with that is LeBron's Cavs team was decent, not nearly as bad as the Spurs, but I think that just goes to show
how great
how
LeBron
bad
was.
The Spurs really
Yeah.
are, and how good LeBron really is.
In all honesty, with as much hype as Wemby got, I feel like he should be averaging a little more points wise.
You would think there was,
like, I'm not saying that 21 points is
probably a 20 game. There was probably a 20 game stretch where he was on a minutes limit because of a small injury, just kind of like a nagging little thing.
Because he's a 7'4" giraffe. Yeah.
Yeah. But I will say, I think the thing that's most impressive about him is that if he can stay healthy, because all of the things that he does to prepare his body and like just all of the stretching and the calisthenics, if you watch like his pregame routine, it's very thorough and very extensive, which I think is only going to lead to hopefully him playing more, and playing longer, because I know he plays for a rival team of mine in the Spurs, but with a guy like this, you want to see him have success, and you want to see him play for as long as possible, because he could be a guy that's being talked about as, potentially 15, 20 years from now, we could be talking about in the same conversation of LeBron and Jordan.
For sure. All right. Well, I'll kick off our second game then. The Warriors held off the Lakers 128-121. As Anthony Davis missed the second half due to an injury, and LeBron and Steph Curry gave us
he got hit in the eye.
Yeah, and LeBron and Steph Curry once again gave us just a vintage, just theatrical performance. So LeBron went 48-9 on 65.
Keep in mind, he is in season 21.
Year 21, he is 40. Old. I think he's 40. He might still be 39, but I'm pretty sure
he's 40. He'll be 41 in December.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
So 40 years old and scored 40 points, had 8 rebounds and 9 assists on 65% shooting. So it's not like he did like Kobe where he took 60 shots.
I scored 60 points, but I took 50 shots to get there.
Bro, I love it because, like, obviously we all love Kobe and, rest in peace. But that final game was awesome because he had 60 points, but he took 50 shots. And that is, like, I think one of the only times where people did not want him to pass the ball.
Yeah, they were just like, dude, shoot it.
Right. D'Lo had 23 3 and 13. But it wasn't enough as Steph dropped 31, 6 and 5. Jonathan Kuminga had 23, 2 and 4. Clay from the bench had 5 threes and went 26, 4 and 3. And then Draymond had a double-double without points, going for 6, 12 and 13. So ultimately, I think what happened here is that LeBron had his heroics and D'Lo actually went with him. And this was a competitive game. I mean, like, this was really a great game. And honestly, I think if they have AD in the second half, the Lakers probably are able to pull this one out. But you know, it's what I've said, you know, about the Lakers. It's like LeBron has to have someone go with him, and obviously, I think the key here was losing AD. But like D'Lo was that third option, which he should be. But D'Lo was that third option. He stepped up. I mean, 13 assists is nuts. 23 points is good for D'Lo. But you know, when you have Steph and Clay and Kuminga both going for more than 20, you're asking an awful lot of 40-year-old LeBron with no AD. And then Draymond just was that facilitator doing exactly what they needed him to do. And this is what makes both of these teams kind of sneaky dangerous and kind of a tough out no matter what, is any given night, man. I mean, you know, we've seen Clay have 2 points and we've seen Clay have 26. We've seen Clay have 60. Like, it's any given night, anyone on both of these teams can just go off and step up when they need to. And this was just, honestly, it was a really great game. I'm really glad I got to watch the second half of this game. But what were your thoughts here?
Yeah, I agree. You know, it's tough for the Lakers because they just don't have a lot of depth,
No,
especially
not
to
at all.
replace a guy like Anthony Davis if he goes down. And don't get me wrong, Christian Wood, he's a good player. He's not Anthony Davis. He doesn't provide that same amount of defensive presence around the rim that AD does. And you know, I think the Lakers did what they had to do to step up, but ultimately, just without having AD, without having that true second option as a scorer, it's just not enough to keep up with the Warriors.
Right.
Even though they're all 90 years old.
Well, they're like 90 years
That's
old or they're like 22.
yeah. So, like you said, this is going to be a tough out for anyone come playoff time. I truly, truly hope that we get a winner take all in the 9-10 matchup for this matchup. Can you imagine LeBron, AD, Steph, D'Lo, Clay, Kuminga, Draymond in a winner take all? Loser goes home.
Well, Draymond getting ejected.
9-10 matchup for a play. 9-10 matchup for a spot in a play-in tournament.
Oh gosh, I'm not gonna lie to you though, dude. Like, as great as that would be, I don't want to see them be the 9 and 10. Like, I almost really hope that one of them is able to move up to the 8 somehow, because then like they could both make it and could end up playing each other or upsetting a good team, you know? Because I stand by what I said. I think the Lakers match up with Denver really well. I mean, we saw that in the Western Conference Finals last year where, yeah, they got swept, but it was by like a total of 5 points. So
like you said, I think it'll be a tough out for anyone in the playoffs. If I'm the Thunder, I definitely don't want to play the Lakers, who have beat you twice this year. The Warriors, I think, for me as a Thunder fan, don't scare me as much.
They don't scare you as much,
because,
but also, you know, Steph.
but
is
also,
gonna,
yeah, also I know Steph and Clay and Draymond come playoff time, and they just have so much more experience than the Thunder have. Which would scare me as well. So
it's almost like Kansas City. It's like, yeah, it's like they don't scare you as much, but also as long as they've got Steph and Clay and Draymond and Steve Kerr, you can't count them out. Yeah, exactly.
You can't count them out until they are out of the playoffs.
And you already know it would be your luck that would somehow go Game 7. Y'all would have a 2-point lead, and then all of a sudden you'd hear Curry way downtown, bang, bang. Oh, what a shot from Curry! You already know. All right.
Stop.
Well,
I'm having PTSD.
all right. Well, let's get out of that then, and let's move on to the return of Tavner's Tears, ladies and gentlemen. It is back. This time, the NBA edition, as Justin is going to rank all 30 NBA teams currently. Um, gonna have some fun here, Justin. So let's take it away.
All right, let's get into it. So coming in at 30, we have the Washington Wizards. Number 29, the Detroit Pistons. Yes, I said that correctly. The Wizards are worse than the Pistons.
I just.
The Pistons had a 27 game losing streak, and the Wizards are
Hey,
worse.
you remember when Jordan Poole was talking shit about the
Yeah,
Pistons, and here we are.
yeah. Going in at 28, I have the San Antonio Spurs. 27, the Portland Trailblazers. 26, the Charlotte Hornets. 25, the Memphis Grizzlies. 24, the Toronto Raptors. 23, the Brooklyn Nets. 22, the Utah Jazz. 21, the Houston Rockets. Number 20, the Atlanta Hawks. Any thoughts on 30 through 20?
Not in the slightest.
Sounds good. They're all kind of garbage.
They all are.
Coming in at 19, I have the Chicago Bulls. Number 18, I have the Los Angeles Lakers. Number 17, the Golden State Warriors.
Yes, sir.
There it is. Number 16, the Miami Heat. Number 15, the Philadelphia 76ers. 14, the Indiana Pacers. 13, the Phoenix Suns. 12, the Sacramento Kings. And just missing out on the top 10, coming in at 11, that is the Dallas Mavericks. Any questions on 19 through 11?
No questions. I think it's kind of a testament to the 76ers, though, and Tyrese Maxey that they are still up as high as they are with no Joel Embiid. So, also, it's a little shocking to see the Pacers just relevant.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton's been a stud.
Testament to them as well. And then I guess you could say Phoenix is a little bit of a disappointment being down at 13. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's move into the top 10.
Top 10 coming in at 10. I have the Orlando Magic.
Orlando Magic. Orlando Magic. Orlando Magic. Oh.
No, but this team is scrappy. They've won 10 of their last 13. They play great defense, and they could seriously make a run at the 2 seed in the East, as they are just 4 games back of that spot with 14 games to play. So number 10, the Orlando Magic.
Yes, sir.
Number 9, the Los Angeles Clippers. They've lost 3 of their last 4. They are 6-8 since the All-Star break. This team clearly needs a healthy Russell Westbrook come playoff time, given that that's the only common denominator that is missing from their success they had pre-All-Star break.
The Clippers are weird, man.
All right. Yeah, they are. Coming in at number 8, I have the New Orleans Pelicans. I mean, Zion is playing at an all-star level again. He apparently has lost 25 pounds since the All-Star break, and they are currently holding the 4 seed with a tiebreaker over the Clippers, which would give them that much-needed home court advantage in a potential 7-game series with the Clippers. So, coming in at 8, I have the New Orleans Pelicans.
Real quick, it's just seeing Zion like actually like taking it seriously, like dropping weight and everything, like it's good to see, because this is the player that I feel like we knew he could be if he would just like do what he needed to do.
Yeah,
and you're clearly seeing it pay off. But anyway, that's just the only thought I had there, was it's good to see the Pelicans up that high. But on to 7.
Coming in at 7, I have the New York Knicks. Just this past week, they have wins over the 76ers, the Blazers, the Kings, and the Warriors, and all of those were with OG Anunoby out. This team looks dangerous, and they're only going to get healthier because OG and Randall are both set to return either before the playoffs or around that start of the second round if they make it that far. So, number 7, Knicks.
The Knicks are scary.
Coming in at... Yeah, they are. Coming in at 6, I have the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks put up 140 against the Phoenix Suns this week, and that was without Giannis. I know that the Suns don't play a lick of defense, but it should be noted that this was the first game for Chris Middleton since early February because he was sidelined with an injury.
Heck yeah.
So adding him back to that offense is going to be scary. So Bucks at 6.
The Bucks
Coming
are
in at number
good.
5. Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. I don't even remember what I was gonna say now, but the Bucks are
Okay.
the Bucks are right where they should be.
Yeah. Coming in at number 5, just ahead of them, I have the Cleveland Cavaliers. They are just a game behind Milwaukee, and they are right in the thick of things for that 2 seed. However, with Donovan Mitchell being sidelined for at least a week with a nasal fracture, you have to imagine that they're going to miss his offensive productivity, which could potentially cost them the 2 seed coming down the stretch. But as of right now, I have the Cavs sitting at 5.
Again, kind of surprising, just with the Cavs post LeBron.
Right. Coming in at number 4, I have the Minnesota Timberwolves. I still think Anthony Edwards is in orbit after. I don't know.
Just say it.
After
It's
dunking
too
on John
funny.
Collins.
No, just say it. It's too funny.
Okay. I still think that Anthony Edwards is in orbit after slamming his nuts into John Collins' jaw.
I started laughing because I saw that note. I hadn't read that yet.
I'm going to cut this out of our TikTok. Regardless, the Timberwolves seem to be doing just fine without Karl Anthony Towns, but can they sustain the scoring needed to keep up with the offensive firepower of OKC and Denver? That's the thing that worries me about them. So they are currently sitting at the 4 seed.
No comment.
Sorry about that.
No, don't worry about it. It was
Coming
great.
in at number 3. Coming in at number 3, I have the Denver Nuggets. Speaking of Denver, they are 12-2 since the All-Star break and have a huge matchup with Minnesota tonight. I believe that actually may be going on right about now, which would be a potential, or it could be a potential matchup of the Western Conference Finals. So number 3, I have the Denver Nuggets.
Defending champs.
Number 2, I have the Oklahoma City Thunder.
You know what? I got you. Yes, sir.
They lost to the Pacers this week, but then they followed it up with wins over the Mavs and the Grizzlies. During that 3-game stretch, Chet Holmgren averaged 16 and 11 with, I think, 2 blocks a game. And SGA is still pushing towards that MVP. As we speak, they are a half game up on both Minnesota and Denver. With the winner of that game, they would be tied with OKC after tonight. So a big log jam in the Western Conference right now. Number 2, OKC, though.
Yes, sir.
And coming in at number 1, shocking literally nobody, that would be the Boston Celtics. They are a casual 40 games above 500, as 40. They are 57-17.
Good Lord.
They now have their sixth streak this season of at least 5 wins, and they can pretty much put it on cruise control and await whoever gets the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Boston Celtics at number 1.
Wait, are the Cavs the 2 seed right now in the East?
As of right now, it's Milwaukee.
Okay.
Cavs are a game behind them, and then I want to say like the Knicks are like a game behind the Cavs, and then like the Pacers are a game behind, or the Magic are a game behind them.
Gotcha. The Wizards, by the way, are still on track to keep their losing streak going, as the Rockets are currently up 131 to 108. Oh, excuse me, 131 to 110.
Good Lord.
And then the Nuggets are currently up 14 to 9 on the Timberwolves.
Yes, Milwaukee is 2. Cleveland is a game behind them in the 3. New York is in the 4th spot, 2 games behind Cleveland. And then Orlando is in the 5 spot, half a game back from the Knicks.
Also, breaking news, Ohio State won their first NIT game.
against Cornell.
Woo!
Beat those nerds.
Oh, I can't with you. All right, that was Tavner's Tears, guys. I missed that, man. It was fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Good time.
I'm trying to think. I don't really think anything on here is like I don't have a problem with any of it. I think it's all actually pretty good.
And we can
So
go ahead and readdress this, I think, at the end of the season, before we kind of get into playoff time and see how all the teams stacked up.
sure. All right, well let's get on to hot takes. So,
I actually have 3 this week.
you have
I kind of
3.
slacked last week, so I figured I'd make up for it.
Yeah, I think you only had what, one last week.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I can start if you have 2.
I'm trying to decide if I have a third or not. So right now I'll just go ahead and give my first one. The Green Bay Packers will represent the NFC in the Super Bowl.
All right. Is that it? You're just leaving it at that?
Yeah, just leaving it at that.
All right. Sounds good. My first hot take this week is that I believe this quarterback draft class, with the likes of Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix Jr., and J.J. McCarthy, and Bo Nix, they will be closer to the 2021 draft class with the likes of Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, and Trey Lance than they will be to the 2020 class that had the likes of Burrow, Herbert, Tua, Jordan Love, and Jalen Hurts. I believe that this class will be closer to 21 than they will be to the 2020 class.
Sorry, just making sure I heard you correctly.
Did you clean off your glasses for that?
Yeah. Yeah, don't worry about it. My second hot take. The Chicago Bears will make it to the second round of the playoffs. I just think with the talent,
Really going NFC North heavy there.
I just think with the talent around Caleb Williams, and if Caleb Williams is as good as they say he is, I just feel like that is more likely than them being bad again.
All right. My second hot take this week is that Justin Fields will be the starter in Pittsburgh by week 3 at the latest.
Week 3? Oh, Nick Wright gave him week 8.
Nope, week 3.
My goodness.
He will be the starter by week 3. I
literally...
believe the way that this will work is that Russell Wilson will have a bad game week 1. Mike Tomlin will say, all right, maybe that was a fluke. Send him out there for week 2. He pees down his leg again. Justin Fields, you're the guy. Russell Wilson's the placeholder. Justin Fields is the future for that franchise as of right now. They want to see what they have in that future and if they need to go get someone in next year's draft or what they need to do. But Justin Fields will be the starter by week 3.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Let me think. Do I have a third hot take this week? Go ahead and give your third. I'll decide.
All right. My third hot take is that all 4 teams from the AFC North, that is the Ravens, the Bengals, the Browns, and the Steelers, will make the playoffs this coming year. It will be the first time in NFL history that 4 teams from the same division have made the playoffs, and it's going to happen. The Ravens, they took a small step back on defense, but they added Derrick Henry.
Fair trade.
The Steelers' defense got better. Their quarterback play got better, and they won 10 games last year with garbage quarterback play.
True.
The Browns made the playoffs, won 11 games with Joe Flacco starting half.
I thought you were just going to leave that at the Browns.
I was just going to leave it at the Browns.
Oh man, sorry. Sorry, it's just the pause you took.
The playoffs.
You just took a very pregnant pause there. I just wasn't expecting that.
It was a what pause?
A pregnant pause. Have you never heard that?
I don't think I've ever heard that.
Oh,
No.
yeah, no, it's like a lengthy pause, like longer than expected.
Oh.
Anyway.
Anyway, they made the playoffs. They won 11 games last year with Joe Flacco, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and PJ Walker starting half their games. Nick Chubb will be healthy, and they added Jerry Jeudy, and the defense pretty much stayed the same, and it was one of the best in the NFL. They're going to make the playoffs. And then you have the Bengals, where they won 9 games. I think they've addressed a few of the holes that they had in their defense, and Joe Burrow's going to be healthy.
Is it bad that
Tell me how any of those teams aren't going to make the playoffs.
it's kind
Give
of
me a scenario in which one of those teams doesn't make it. Because if you're looking at what I just gave you in last year's results, what team got worse?
I think
My point exactly.
I think you could say that the Bengals got better in a much less significant way than the other 3 teams did.
Right, but they won 9 games.
No, I'm not I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying like you were saying
Strictly
which one of
looking at
them
improvement.
you were saying which one of them got worse, and I'm like, I don't know that I could say any of them necessarily got worse. But I feel like if you're looking at how they improved, I feel like the Bengals maybe made the least significant improvements.
Yeah, but they'll have one of the
But I'm
most
with you.
significant people coming back.
Yeah, because I also think losing Awuzie is going to hurt them a lot too. So
Yeah,
I know you were not thrilled about that.
yeah.
Okay, I have a third hot take. The Philadelphia Eagles will miss the playoffs. You heard me.
Eh?
You heard me. They will miss the playoffs.
Yeah, I just don't know if I heard you correctly.
The way that they ended their year, it's hard to put any faith in them. Like, they had a monumental collapse to end the year, and I don't know that they've made any significant changes in the areas that were actually their weak areas that make me think, oh, they're going to be significantly better. I mean, they lost one of their biggest leaders and cornerstones of their offense in Jason Kelsey, who retired. They then replaced their, really good running back in DeAndre Swift with, a net maybe slight gain in Saquon Barkley. Yes, Saquon was really good in New York, and, obviously he carried New York to the playoffs that year. But you got to think the Eagles' O-line is going to be significantly worse without Jason Kelsey. It's just hard for me to see a scenario in which they are able to replace his value and what he brought to that team. Their defense was awful at best at the end of the year.
That's the nicest way to put it.
And yeah, they signed C.J. Gardner-Johnson, but I'm just not sure that one guy, like you said last week, I'm not sure that one guy is really going to make a difference there. So it would not shock me to see some of this drama with A.J. Brown continue. I think that Jalen Hurts is not going to be as good without Jason Kelsey, and I still don't think that Nick Sriracha is the guy. So
Who?
I said Nick Sriracha, bro.
Okay.
Yeah. So I see a world in which Nick Sirianni could be fired halfway through the season.
I mean, I would say if they start the season like 3-5, yeah.
I think he's gone because I don't that's my hot take. I don't necessarily think that's the most likely scenario is that they miss the playoffs, but that would not shock me at all.
It's the hot take section for a reason.
And it's not like I'm saying the Baltimore Ravens are going to miss the playoffs. This is just the Philadelphia Eagles we're talking about here. So,
yeah, if you said the Ravens would make the playoffs, that would be like egregious.
Yeah, could you imagine a moron saying that on a podcast? Like, what would that guy be thinking?
Right.
That would almost be like saying that Patrick Mahomes is a system quarterback. Bro, who said that? That's crazy.
Did someone behind me say that? Like,
all right. Well, On that
I think
note,
that's it.
yeah, on that note, hey, we got a little bit of a shorter episode, but like you said, not as much is happening right now. So, thanks everybody for listening, and we had a lot of fun today. So, on behalf of Justin, I'm Ben, and make sure that you like and subscribe to the podcast on wherever you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Apple, Google. Make sure that you follow us on TikTok and YouTube at The Rundown Sports Pod, and on Instagram at The Rundown Sports Pod. And until next time, guys, have a nice day, and thanks for listening.